Join our knowledgeable hosts as they dive into the captivating universe of comic books, movies, TV shows, and pop culture. Get ready for vibrant discussions and a shared enthusiasm for all things superhero and beyond. A comic podcast straight from the panels. This is Beyond the Capes.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Cape podcast. With us today is Peter Bune. We are here to discuss DEATHGASM 1.5. You may have seen the film. It was streamed, at least for me, it was streaming almost everywhere quite a bit ago. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. Pleasure to be here.
We're happy to discuss this. Like I said, the movie was fantastic, as we have every guest on. Especially in the comic book industry, of all the things you could have chosen in this life, being a banker, running a business, just sitting on the couch. Comic books is such a heartbreaking hobby to have, but it's so rewarding when you do it. Why comic books for you?
Well, some say like I couldn't help it. I was just drawn to it. No, but well, to begin, although my background says DEATHGASM, I only wrote the comic book, co-wrote the comic book with Jason Howden. Jason Lee Howden is the creator of DEATHGASM, soon to be DEATHGASM 2. So I just want to get that straight to your listeners that this is the comic book only. And to answer your question, it wasn't a straight line, not at all. But I'm from the generation of like 80s cartoons, 80s toys, 80s cartoons, 80s comics, 80s movies. So even at an early age, I was interested in how things were made. I would slow down cartoons just to see every frame, and that's kind of like that. I kind of started in sketch comedy in the late '90s, and went into micro budget filmmaking, and then from there, it's just like I said, it's not a straight line. From micro budget filmmaking, went into feature filmmaking, mostly horror movies. And then went into podcasting. Like we were talking about before we started, I also had a podcast too. And that's how I met Jason. And it was actually during the pandemic, I reconnected, I caught up with Jason, and I started a comic. And he saw it. I sent it to him and he saw it. And he said that he's always wanted to do a DEATHGASM comic. And I'm like, if I could do it, you could do it. And he's like, well, why don't we do it? And that's pretty much the DEATHGASM comics started out as like as a pandemic era project that we were doing while we were like not doing anything. So yeah, it's pretty much comic books found me. I'm pretty new to this. This is only my second book, and I got lucky because it's an adaptation or a continuation of one of my favorite films in the last 10 years.
Yeah. No, I think comic books finds us all. I mean, being a 90s kid, the fact that if you had told me I was going to not be in the comic books, I would have said that that's impossible. Growing up with Power Rangers, X-Men the animated series, Batman the animated series, there was really no hope, at least for my generation, for sure, from escaping it. That was just going to happen. Now, being that this is your second comic book and you've been a fan for a long time, and obviously you're co-writing this, was there any point where when you set out, you're like, oh, I'm going to write a comic book, I'm going to do this comic book, where you also tried, maybe you did do the artwork as well? Or was it just like strictly, you know what, I just want to write a story?
Art was a thing when I was a kid. I was like, I want to draw. And when you're a kid, you're like, everyone's the greatest artist when they're a kid.
Yep.
And I still remember like when Batman 89 came out, I made my own Batman 89 comics. And I was like really into Mad Magazine. A lot of like, so the two books that I've written so far, looking for artists, I was like Mad Magazine style. And I found someone from Argentina who goes by Industrious Lamanacana, and he does the art for my two books. And so yeah, Mad Magazine, I think really I just realized how much that shaped my humor. Like I said, I started in sketch, and like Mad Magazine was like the book version, the comic book version of sketches, right? And
Definitely.
yeah, so Batman, I drew Batman, but then like everyone, I just found that everyone was so much better than me. Like when I got into high school, there's artists way better than me, and the only thing that I know that I could hold on to that was original and that was my own was storytelling. So whatever my experiences were, they were mine. Whatever ideas I had, they were mine. Um, all inspired by other comic book artists or other comic book writers and movies that I grew up in. But yeah, that's how I found it.
Definitely. Um, Now with storytelling, obviously, comic books are a big thing. Were you always the kid then that just wrote stories, or were quick to tell your friends like, "Hey, I got this scenario. Let me tell you about it. This is my story."
Absolutely. Still to this day, I'm the guy that's just reiterating or retelling the story of something that I just saw or something that just happened or something I just watched, something I just read. Um, to the chagrin of my friends who've, I've been working with the same people. Well, as far as production wise, I've been working with the same people for almost 25, 30 years. Don't want to age myself, but comic books is really new to me. And I got excited because to me, I took it as someone who has experience in film production. I kind of looked at comic books as like doing, a shot list and, storyboards put together because you have to communicate to your artist, what you want to see. So storyboards, I never did it. They were always like stick figures, right?
Hey, I
I
mean, as long
gotta
as you
get really, yeah, I gotta get really confident in my art. I've just been shitting on my own art for a long time, but um, yeah. So storytelling was always a big part of growing up. I'm Filipino, so in the Filipino culture, there's a lot of you know a lot of telling stories from your family handed down from cultures, learning about your family, learning about where you came from. Uh, yeah, and also like you know, just if you have a good group of friends, you go out for drinks. You're always telling stories. You're always the older you get, you're always telling stories about what happened back in the day, and you kind of put it into your work. We were talking about Kevin
yeah,
Smith before we started, and that's how he built a whole career on retelling stories about what happened to him um, when he was when he was younger, and he built another career talking for like 4 hours in front of groups of people at colleges and stuff. So that was like another thing. So yeah, Kevin Smith was. We were saying that we were big fans of Kevin Smith, and
no,
that's a story. Like whether it's through his movies, through his presentations, through his his appearances. That guy, his podcast, that guy could talk. That guy could tell stories.
yeah, yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because I can tell you right now, and our listeners that follow our Instagram, ChronicCon going there, having it in Chicago was pretty much just Kevin Smith telling his story to all of his fans in a really small room, which was fantastic. Um,
Right.
the other thing too, that's really fantastic, especially for the Filipinos. I can tell you that they do love to tell stories. Working in a hospital, if you ever to tell me that you work in a hospital and you have not once had pancit or lumpia, you did not work in a hospital. If you do not know Tagalog, you have not worked in a hospital. Do not tell
Dude,
me that.
Ryan,
That's a lie.
how do we not how is this the first time we're meeting? We have like a lot so much in common. Lumpia. Get
Exactly.
your get your nurse friends to get you some lumpia. That's top grade Filipino cuisine right there.
Lumpia, pancit, sig, always.
Dude, sisig, yeah. That's like Anthony Bourdain was talking about how he loves sisig. Yeah, that's good drinking, like a bottle of San Miguel beer. That's the Filipino beer. And sisig, chef's kiss right there.
Fantastic. What's really funny too is that you mentioned storyboarding and having that familiarity with filmmaking and kind of like television and movie type production work. I think after the pandemic, which I really hope someone goes to make a documentary on the media culture and comic book culture, because the pandemic might have been one of the best things that happened, despite everything that wasn't great. Um, and I think a lot of our indie artists that are coming that were on film and television and didn't have anything to do and they couldn't physically do anything, I feel like a lot of them turned to either novel writing or comic book writing because there are such vast similarities between, especially with the pre-planning and putting a shot list to a panel list and trying to figure out that layout. What was the most challenging thing about having that background and trying to convert it to a comic book style enterprise?
Well, let me answer that through you bringing up the pandemic. Um, I think I mentioned that this was a pandemic project, and I'm from New York. I'm from Queens. I'm from Long Island, New York, originally, residing in Queens now. And Jason Howden is in New Zealand. He lives in New Zealand. And over the last 4 or 5 years through the pandemic, we learned how to communicate with people without being in the same room. You have a podcast, and we're doing it. You're in Chicago, and I'm here in Queens, which is amazing. This is like technology that has like blown up over the last 4 or 5 years, and we pretty much put this book together. Before like it got to Bitbot Media, we were just doing it through emails, Zoom conversations, text messages, Facebook, sending each other messages through Facebook, like, inspiration and stuff like that. So everything was done. Yeah. And you don't know, you don't have an excuse. If you want to make something and, you find a partner that you could make something with that could push you, that could motivate you to do it. Yeah, you have no excuses. You have to make it. What was your original question? The storyboards,
How'd
and
you
shot list.
Yeah, like transitioning from media kind of layout and then kind of getting the comic books and taking that knowledge because they are very similar, but they're also so different. Right, a 300-page script, which might only be 30 minutes of actual movie. You write a 300-page script for a comic books, that's an omnibus.
Right.
So trying to scale it and get it made. What was the
Yeah.
biggest challenge of that?
Well, there are a lot of challenges. When you direct a movie, you have to communicate with other departments, whether it's like the camera department, sound department, and pretty much when you put a comic book together, it's pretty much the same thing. You have your inker, you have your colorist, you have your letterer, right? Yeah, your letterer. I learned all these things as I was going along with it, which is pretty cool. Another obstacle, another hurdle that we had to go through, the artists I found didn't speak English. So I had to be really concise with what I wanted to be in the panels as he was doing the art. So there's more technology. He just used Google Translate, just Google translated all of my direction, all of my art direction, right? In my scripts. And yeah, and he just a little few edits here and there sometimes, but that's it. You just find a really good crew with film, or you find a really good, art crew, good partners.
No, I mean that. And as you probably did learn early on, and people always make fun of me for this now, in comic books, letterers especially, they make or break a comic book. Despite what anyone says, you can have a beautifully drawn, you can have Batman, best, you have Jim Lee, everyone, Scott Snyder, team up, make this Batman. You put pink Times New Roman as all the letters, that Batman issue is not going to hit as hard as you think it's going to hit. Lettering is super important.
Yeah, your letters are sound, pretty much, for to translate from film to comics. Your letters are sound. I found a great letterer for my first book, Squatch Watch. He became a really good friend, and he was also from South America. I got lucky. I found a lot of great artists in South America, and yeah, you meet through like Comic Cons and stuff. I went to a couple of great Comic Cons in Chicago. Great town, great city you have there. Yeah, and you just try to meet artists. But yeah, letterers, yeah, they're amazing. They transform your whole thing. Deathgasm from its first release, because the first issue was released about a year or two ago. Went through a few changes when it went to BitBot Media, and we updated. That gave me an opportunity to over a year. I learned more about lettering. So I got to go back to my scripts and kind of redo that for this, because it's the new release, the 1.5, is a collection of 3 issues that I co-wrote, and so now that we're transitioning to this hardcover graphic novel, I had an opportunity to put in the sound effects that I wanted to. That it really changes, because like I didn't write sound effects in the first version that I did, and it felt a little flat. It just felt flat, and I didn't know why. And then when I realized and it clicked, I just Googled like how to write sound effects, or just asked like you know the new editors I had, like they helped me a lot. But yeah, that was the main thing. Like I had to go back and I just went through every script that I originally wrote and just put sound effects, made sure that they were there.
Exactly. And it's funny you mentioned South America, because I think can't remember who I was talking to. South America and parts of Africa and Germany have some of the best artists, and I don't know when they're going to get their up and coming, but it's coming. When you look at Rafael Albuquerque, we had on the show Rafael Scavone, who did some Batman, who did a really great original pizza mafia story. So many great artists are out of South America. I don't know what they're teaching down there, but the art has been phenomenal on all the indie comic books I've read.
Yeah, it's new to me. That's new to me, and you're right, because I just started adding a whole bunch of them on Instagram. just looking at their art on Instagram, I'm like, oh my god, you're from Brazil. Amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's insane. Now, one of the things that might have been probably easy, and that's having a book is going to lead us into the whole reason we're here, is it's really hard. I wouldn't say it's not easy, it's not hard necessarily, but trying to get your original idea on paper and making a story, you have to definitely have an idea of what you want to do and really kind of put into the thought process of how I'm going to make this work. For you, we had obviously a great movie to go off of, which is still one of my favorite movies. I gotta remember what streaming site it's on. Did that kind of help some of the anxiety? Well, everyone listening, go to Peacock. You won't be disappointed. It's one of the best endings of all time. So good. What was it like did it take some of the anxiety away of having that whole movie to be like, all right, well, at least they established a lore that I can work off of, but then I also got a little bit of leeway to make this comic book, that, eventually we do have, I believe Deathgasm 2 Gormageddon did have a successful Kickstarter. I think they raised like an extra $25,000 past their $300,000. Fantastic. Really can't wait for it. That had to take some of the pressure off.
It took pressure off because there was a movie to base it on, and you could actually picture the characters. But there was also a little added pressure because it's not my creation.
Yeah.
I felt like I had a responsibility to live up to Jason's ideas and everything that he wanted to say. He created an outline, so that was easy for me. And he's had an outline in mind for a while. Deathgasm, the first movie, came out in 2015, so that's like 10 years ago. So he made Guns Akimbo after that. And did you see that movie? Have you seen Guns Akimbo?
Oh, so good.
Right?
If this comic is going to be as I think it is, I think we need to see a Guns Akimbo comic book to follow this.
Well, let's see where this conversation goes, because I'm not that okay. Wait, no, you know what? It's just me and you. Let's chat. So I just wanted to bring up one of the Jason Howden is one of the coolest guys ever, and I was telling him, we were chatting a lot during the pandemic. You're at home a lot, and I told him that I loved Guns Akimbo, and he was trying to raise money for something. I think it was like for a foundation, not for the movie. This is like early stuff. This is like we're still talking about the comic. He's still, putting the movie together. But I was like, I like Guns Akimbo, and I was like a huge fan of Samara Weaving's character in Guns Akimbo, Nyx. And he's like,
Yeah.
I have movie used props still. Do you want them? And I was like, yeah, I do want
Absolutely.
them. But we learned that sending guns through the mail from New Zealand to America was really difficult. And we were,
yeah.
if I were to tell you all the different ways that we tried, we went through like my sister's friend who lived in in Australia to we went through many different ways. And finally we were just like, man, it's just whatever. Well, never mind. just putting a comic book together is good enough. But maybe when he comes
one day,
maybe one day I'll get it was one of her guns. It was one of her prop guns that she used in the movie. We were talking about Guns Akimbo. We were talking about Deathgasm 2.
If Deathgasm 1.5 does good, do you think you would do like a Guns Akimbo comic book?
I don't know what happened. A lot. I think the movie ends where it should have ended, right? But if Jason had an outline for a prequel or something, maybe,
I would definitely.
Maybe, hopefully, maybe he'll think of me.
So that brings us the whole reason we're here, and that is for the project that you had worked on. You co-wrote with the director, Deathgasm 1.5. For those that are not, again, who haven't seen the movie, Deathgasm, we have the story of Brody, who gets heavy metal fanatic. So much bad stuff has happened to a kid so early on in the movie. It's going to be good. I mean, he lost his parents. Pretty sure at some point he loses pretty much the rest of his family in the movie. It's been a while since I've seen it.
He kills
at least
them.
Get some friends. Yeah,
he had to kill them because they turn into demons, right?
We get Zach. You could say he's his friend. I guess at the end he did redeem himself. People need to go watch it. He was my least favorite character. I was happy the way it happened. And two other friends, they make their heavy metal band until they find out that the whole town is essentially run by occultists that are trying to resurrect a demon and bring about the end of times with the math, which is one of the best things ever. The Black Hymn has to be like the coolest tagline for something as well. It's the most metal thing you could say. Play from the Black Hymn just sounds fantastic. And just carnage, metal, and everything just ensues. Where does this story kind of come to life after the movie?
Awesome. Yeah, that your description of the movie is pretty awesome. So Medina Darcy is the girl that he falls for, that him and Zach kind of were fighting over, which kind of maybe that's why he didn't like him so much. But if you're not familiar with Deathgasm, you might be familiar with the meme of the bench where they're eating ice cream, where a metal kid wearing corpse paint is eating ice cream with a girl, a blonde girl, in a nice frilly dress, white dress, and they're just sharing ice cream, and he's just looking like that. You might be familiar with that meme, which is it's like my music taste, also my music taste, or my taste in movies, also my taste in movies. That's what a lot of people use it for. At the end of the movie, Medina kind of helps them and helps them defeat Aloth, the demon. We catch up with them a few years later, and they've started another Deathgasm band with a new rhythm section, with a new bass player and drummer. And they've just been touring with the band and also monster slaying or demon slaying. So that we catch up with them after they've spent a year or two just kind of going from town to town, performing and also killing demons. They've MacGyvered their instruments to be ready for action. You know,
Awesome.
Brody has his axe, which turns into a crossbow. Medina, who's now the front woman of Deathgasm, has her mic stand, which kind of turns into like a sword. You know, and then the other two guys also have specialties with their instruments. But yeah, we kind of catch up with them. If you're not familiar with the movie, I keep saying the book has a recap. It recaps the movie in the beginning of the graphic novel. So yeah, you can catch up instantly. But I recommend watching
There
the
you
movie.
go. Oh, highly recommend watching the movie. Everyone, watch this episode. Go watch the movie. Come back and listen to the episode, and it'll probably make a lot more sense if you haven't. This has to be a fun book to write because it reminds me of one of my favorite video games, Brutal Legend, with Jack Black. I'm super excited to see. Anytime you get a weapon that's also a music instrument, like Desperado, I'm fully in right there. What
Is
was
that
it like?
Tenacious?
Because
Is that Tenacious D related?
Brutal
That video
Legend.
game? Yeah. Is that Tenacious D
Oh,
related?
it's Jack Black did a voice. Like Kyle Gass is in it. Ozzy Osbourne did a voice. Lita
Oh,
Ford did a
sick.
voice. Lemmy did a voice. I think Judas Priest. He did a voice. They got so many people. It's like a world based around heavy metal. The flowers are just like the horns like coming up from the ground. It's one of the best games for heavy metal
Is it a
enthusiasts. Everyone should play
It's a
it.
side scroll? Is it a side scroll game or?
Oh, it's a first person.
Oh,
You
sick.
go around on your motorcycle with your guitar, casting magic, and it's also a battle axe.
Oh man, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go check out that game as well because super well. What was it like writing the story from the movie? Because in the movie we kind of get this nice ending. Brody, he went through a lot. He doesn't have a lot, left. I mean, the whole town, he essentially had to fight the whole town. And now you have this layout from Jason, who's like, hey, this is kind of where I'm going with our sequel that we got kickstarted. This is kind of like the layout that I would like you to go, and then you get the chance to just see that glow up from not just death metal kid, but death metal warrior now, who's also laying down just heavy death metal tracks.
Right. Right. Heavy metal glow up is right, especially for Medina. So this book that I wrote, I kind of was. It was in Jason's outline, but I was really interested in writing Medina as kind of the lead in this because Brody's a little battle worn. He's still thinking
Yeah,
about Zach even a few years later. Zach's sacrifice. You're talking about the end of Deathgasm. It has that little tag at the end.
a little bit.
So there, it left it open. It left it open, even if you didn't expect it. But Medina takes on the lead in here, and she's pretty much the serious one. But she's not too serious because she is with Brody, who is a super slacker. He's a super slacker. If he wasn't, if his job didn't include heavy metal, he probably wouldn't be doing it. And his job is monster slaying. But because it includes touring and playing music, then I'm pretty much sure that's his motivation. He's kind of the guy who's like, I don't really care that my town's being taken over by demons, like, but I get to play heavy metal, right? And I'm really good at it, or he gets really good at it. But Medina really takes her monster. They both take it really seriously.
Yeah,
In a fun way. It's a splatter. It's a splatter book. If you like, don't get it twisted. This is a purely splatter, like everything's set up for lots of blood, lots of vomit, lots of body parts. And the art shows it. It's just everywhere. Like a lot of the things that we were inspired by were Peter Jackson movies, early Peter Jackson movies, including Bad Taste. Actually, interesting story. So the way Jason kind of pitched it to me was that we just started talking about Peter Jackson movies. You know, he's from New Zealand. Jason's from New Zealand. Jason works for him at Jason works with Weta, you know, visual effects. So we were just like, you know, what movies of Peter Jackson's were we both into? We were on like Dead Alive is one of my favorite movies. Dead Alive was one of those movies where back when I would walk into Blockbuster, I would always see that tape as a little kid and be like scared because it was just like, you know, is the one with the mouth and the, you know,
Yeah.
was it the face or the skull? Yeah, the mouth being spread, and that was Dead Alive. And finally, when I saw it, I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. You know, everyone's got really charming accents, and it just looked so colorful and like it was splatter comedy, a horror comedy. It wasn't just splatter horror, it was splatter horror comedy. And I think Jason is, you know, completely descended from that. A descendant from that. Yeah. That's where he's totally like inspired from. So what I did was I commissioned my artist to create a Deathgasm versus Bad Taste Aliens mock-up art, you know, and I sent that to Jason and he was like, holy shit, this looks awesome. And it's pretty much Brody and Medina driving through a bunch of the cannibalistic aliens from Bad Taste. I said Bad Taste, right? So yeah, the Bad Taste aliens. So it was them fighting the Bad Taste aliens. And so Jason's like, I gotta send this to Peter's people, to Peter Jackson's people. So we spent months and months like hoping we'd get something back from Peter Jackson, but nothing came of it. So we were like, let's just do this independently. So we did it. We started off doing it independently based on that piece of art that hopefully will be in the graphic novel as kind of like some of the extras. Or if you go to the Kickstarter will be starting soon. The Kickstarter announcement will be launching soon. So there's going to be a lot of cool rewards, cool extras like that, like art. And I think maybe that should be one of the things that are available if you contribute to the Kickstarter campaign. But we started off independent, and then he found, you know, people interested in releasing it, and that's where he kind of based it off. And we put that in the first issue, but since we didn't get permission from Peter Jackson, we kind of changed it into our own aliens. But we did base it in the same town, the same fictional New Zealand town, Kaihoro, that the Bad Taste aliens are from. And there's a line in there that Jason put in that said, they're like the Peter Jackson aliens from Bad Taste, but they're not the aliens from Bad Taste because we don't want to get sued. Like that's kind of how, you know, meta and cheeky this book is. So
the only thing I can think about when you say that is the Austin Powers when they had the Godzilla. I think like in the third one, and I think it was a Hero from Heroes. He's like, it's Godzilla, even though it's not.
Yeah,
we should still run like it is Godzilla. But it's not Godzilla.
It's not. That's exactly what we did.
Perfect. So what, and I think that's important too with a movie like this and a book, and even as we hopefully get closer to eventually seeing the sequel, if you were to make Deathgasm and make it too serious, I've seen that movie a million times. I already know how it's going to be, the dark, brooding metal guy that has to go fight. I've seen it. I don't need to see it again. Movies that can make fun of themselves and just be a good time. I mean, I think that's what a lot of us want to see when I'm watching this style of film. Like just the cover page of Deathgasm right away, I know exactly the movie I'm in for. And that was like the first reason I streamed it, watching. I'm like, this has got to be a great movie.
And there's also something to say about New Zealand humor. They're very charming. Like, love their accents, but the humor, like the guys who did What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah,
you know, I think those are his contemporaries. You know, there's a very particular Kiwi type of humor, and Jason is definitely part of the Kiwi exploitation type of humor and horror that New Zealand is known for. And yeah,
well,
I had to.
say,
So,
you guys keep making comic books, I think DB Comics should be like the company.
Yeah. So like, I've never been there. I've never been to New Zealand or Australia. So I definitely had to write the way I know how to write. And then he definitely had to
Exactly.
edit in his, when you read it, you'll be like, what does that mean? Because, or not, you're not really, what does that mean? You understand it, but he definitely input his Kiwi slang, New Zealand references, which I think added a whole new layer to it, which makes it original, right? Because we've all seen it before, but this is definitely Jason's voice in there, his humor, his references, his style, totally.
Definitely. Now with this book, obviously you're a big fan of the film. You and Jason are friends. You were excited to do this comic book. Was there any part about this process that was surprisingly difficult, despite you having like so much like love and like fun for this film? You're like, man, I thought this part or like this section would be a lot easier because I really do enjoy it. But I was like, but you're just like, oh, I can't wait to be done with like this part, or this isn't my favorite part of the process.
Yeah, this wasn't an easy project to put together. Like I said, we're all coming from different places, different parts of the world. The artist, not only like the creator, but the artist, the writer, we're all from different parts of the world. So there's just like a lot. It took a lot of time. Just took a lot of time to put
Yeah,
together, but and it's independent, and it's still being crowdfunded. You know, uh, so just a lot of patience, just being very patient. That it's going to be released, and it will be released, which is exciting. It hasn't been released yet, but uh, people out there, they have to go support this. It's gonna be like nothing you've ever seen before. There's a lot of cameos. There's a lot of cameos that will be in there that people will be surprised to see. And I think it's just going to be a gorgeous book to have. Like it's going to be something
definitely.
really. It's going to be hard. It's going to be available as a hardcover and a paperback. But I think the hardcover is going to be just a gorgeous book to have in your collection. So I encourage people to support the Kickstarter. Go to Bitbot Media on Kickstarter. They just completed a successful crowdfunding for was it the Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, which is an
And yeah,
yeah.
fantastic.
So yeah, so they're doing like a prequel graphic novel of that classic 1999 video game. So yeah, so I'm excited to see where this goes, and yes, get it, support it. But yeah, it was not easy to do. It was not, just as far as the time it took. And
Yeah,
we were lucky because with the time that it started to now, Jason actually got to fund Gormageddon. So at the point when we
yeah,
started talking about the book, it was like we didn't know where anything was. We didn't even know if the world, we thought the world was ending, you know? So we were just like,
yeah,
you know, which is like what the movie is going to be about. So his movie is about Armageddon, and the book is about Brody being warned not to do things, otherwise he would set off our Gormageddon. So get the book so you can see how the movies are linked together.
definitely. And it's just gonna be great because I mean, obviously, it sounds like, without saying too much, obviously, it sounds like your book is gonna bleed right into the sequel.
I hope so. I haven't seen Gormageddon yet. I've seen behind the scenes pictures and video, but the cast has released. Kimberly Crossman is back as Medina. I got really excited. I follow her on Instagram, and she's been posting a lot of stuff. So is Milo Cawthorn, who plays Brody. They've been slowly posting behind the scenes stuff, which is really exciting to see. Like, when you're writing, you're pretty much isolated in at your desk or your workstation or a dining room table, which is my workstation. and you're just kind of like in your own thing, and like you're living with these characters, you know. You start to develop like your own little personal relationship with these characters, and like you said, there was a movie before this, so I knew what they look like beforehand. So yeah, for me, it's gonna be a really special thing when Jason gets to release his movie and have this comic book as like an accompaniment to it.
Yeah, that will be awesome. Especially if you guys do a DVD comic book combo special. I think that's the
Dude,
best
yeah,
way.
dude, you have a lot of great ideas. Hopefully, the people that put this stuff together, they're listening to us. They're listening to you.
They'll figure it out. The one thing I always like to ask, especially because Bitbot Media, what they did for Legacy of Kain was insane with the Legacy of Kain add-ons. You could get the replica Legacy of Kain sword if you paid enough money, which is amazing to me that I could have the actual sword from the game. I don't know with their talks with you guys and how that worked with the stretch goals, but at some point, did someone please bring up that we need to have a vinyl record and a Deathgasm like slipcover as an add-on? Because if that was not discussed, I will be so sad.
Keep sending your ideas. Maybe they'll listen. But one of the cool rewards that they are giving is an Aloth mask, a latex mask,
Okay.
which looks sick. I think I'm allowed to share
Yeah.
this, but yeah, that is one of the things that you can get if you contribute to the Kickstarter, and it looks awesome. It's not like a cheap; it's like a high-end latex mask of Aloth, the demon from the movies.
And I know that is true what you're saying, because the Legacy of Kain, they also did the Rizel and I think Kazin mask for the Soul Reaver bust with the mask. And for everyone listening, they were amazing. So if you're a fan of this movie, it's going to be a great mask for sure.
Yes, totally, do it.
Perfect. So obviously we have this. We're going to get ready to crowdfund it. And for everyone listening, we're going to have the links as soon as we get them for you after the show. If you're seeing this on Instagram, wherever you're seeing it, just go ahead and follow the links. Notify if this Kickstarter is already out and you're listening to us now. Kickstarter's there. Hit pledge. Quit wasting time. Hit pledge. Get it. What is our time? What are we looking at in terms of when does the Kickstarter go live? How long do we have for this campaign?
Well, it's not currently, as of this recording, it's not live yet, but you could go to Bitbot Media's Kickstarter page, and you could there's like a section where you could get notified when it actually launches. So you could do that right now, and then
Perfect.
when it comes out, when the campaign starts, you'll get an email, you get a notification, and you get the book in your hands, amongst other cool things related to the
There you
movie
go.
and the book.
What more do you need? And then for everyone listening that's interested in seeing, what you and what Jason are doing, and want to see what, because I'm assuming you might, as we get closer to the campaign, you'll be able to release like a panel shot here, a panel shot there, kind of get the teasing going on. Where's the best place to follow you and follow the Deathgasm universe?
Well, to follow all the Deathgasm stuff, I would follow Bitbot Media. They have an Instagram, they have a Twitter, they have a Facebook page. So it's all at Bitbot Media. Anything that I could share, it would be just the personal stuff. I'm on Instagram at Pete Bune. Like I said, I'm a lonely writer. I'm not in charge of a lot of stuff. But I'm a fan just like you. I'm a fan just like your listeners. So I'm just as excited to see it all released and to see it all come to fruition.
Perfect.
And follow Jason.
Thank you for
follow
coming
Jason.
on.
Yeah.
Sure,
follow Jason. Follow Deathgasm. Deathgasm and Deathgasm 2 Gormageddon has a Twitter, an Instagram, and a Facebook.
All right. Well, everyone, you heard. Definitely go follow them. thank you for coming on. Like I said, I look really much forward to this comic book. The movie was fantastic. Now it's just the waiting game.
Absolutely. That was fun, man. That 50 minutes went by.
It flies as soon as you're
I was worried about that. I've been watching your show. I'm like, they're talking for 50 minutes. How do people talk for 50 minutes? You're a good interviewer.
Thank you. For everyone listening, go follow him, follow Jason, follow DEATHGASM, follow BitBot Media, stay on the DEATHGASM pulse, keep up with the heavy metal. We hope you enjoyed this Beyond the Cape podcast. We are brought to you by Uncensored Nerds Network. You can find our show, We Got Issues, Plot Hole Production, Flynn's Gaming, Comic-Con Podcast. We got a whole bunch of episodes that cover the whole spectrum of comic books and pop culture. Along with this episode, we hope you enjoy. Follow us, follow our friends, and get ready for some heavy metal blood spray coming at you. Everyone listening, have a good night.